"Would you like to come out today?" "Oh, yes, please," said Edward. So they lit his fire, made lots of steam, and Edward puffed away.
Hello everyone. Yes, I'm still alive. Sorry about the unannounced break. I really didn't intend for this to happen. I've just been so busy with school, and theaters were taking up most of my time. Not to mention I got sick, so I've not really had time to make videos. But I'm back in action now, so let's get into the ramblings. Fact 1. Abbey on the Peel Cottage line was closed during the beaching cuts, as it was mainly used by only the nuns that lived in, well, the Abbey. However, after the appeal to the NWR, and more cottages began to spring up, it became a small halt at semi-regular services, mainly during the summer months. Fact 2. The Goldy Fell Railway is served by 9 engines: Ernest, Wilfred, Goldy, Shane Dewey, who goes by Sharon, Parker, Alaric, Erica, and Lucia. Instead of having a face on each end like in the railway series, they only have a face on the rear. They always push their rolling stock, so having a face on the front is kind of unnecessary anyway. Parker, Alaric, and Erica are all 060s, designed and built by Curved Skate in the 60s. Lucia, I think I'm pronouncing that right, is a diesel from France and was purchased to assist with maintenance on the line in the 80s. Fact 3. There's a small funicular railway next to Skarloey station, which transports people up from one level of the village to the other. The 2 engines are named Jack and Jill. Jill is a bit of a grumpy sort, but gets along well enough with the SKR engines. Jack is much more cheerful, and is good friends with most of the townsfolk. Fact 4. The Tidmouth Bell is a ghost train that runs between Knapford and Tidmouth in the early morning. It's a ghost train in that barely anyone uses it, as it's primarily for the postal workers living in Tidmouth that work at the post office in Knapford. Despite this, many of the older engines tell the younger ones about the Spectre when they've been acting up. Since it's such low priority, it's usually made up of whatever coaches are on hand, whether that be the latest NWR stock or the ancient Wellsworth and Sudbury four-wheelers. Fact 5. Ivo Hugh was actually not the first loco Craven's Gate made for the SKR. The first new build is Chloe Hugh, a powerful 060 built to help run the railway's extension to Gleelowy. She's named after Mr. Ivo Hugh's wife, who also plays an important role in the railway's survival. Technically speaking, Chloe and Ivo are cousins, but Chloe acts more like an older sister to Ivo than a distant relative. She's a nice sort, and always willing to lend a hand, but sometimes she bites off more than she can chew. And now for the questions. Luke Stuff asks, what's your take on 16, Bloomer, and other RWS exclusive engines? Bloomer was one of the Great Waterton Transport Museum's earliest acquisitions, being found and restored by Sir Topham and the museum in 1972. Although not often in the spotlight, she settled in well to her new home, and being in such good shape can often be found running excursion trains all over the island. Some other RWS exclusive engines on the island are Albert, who helped to build the railway during World War I and is at the museum, Fred, who was brought to help extend the SKR up to Gleelowy, Jock, a massive, for miniature gauge at least, Berkshire, who was built for carrying heavy freight, Bear, who's not that much different from the railway series apart from having 4 yellow ends, Barry, a BR-2MT rescued from you-know-where, and Frank, who exists, I guess. 16 I'll have to talk about some other day, as me and River have quite the story to tell about him. Bevan the Radio Tank asks, do you have a headcanon for Packard & Company? Packard & Company is a construction company formed by Patrick Packard, who emigrated from Ireland in the early 20s. He inherited his father's cement works, yes, that cement works, and as Sodor was in dire need of cement for the war, he had plenty of potential customers. However, he began to realize that the island was lacking in construction companies to use his cement, so he decided to start his own. The majority of the machines were mixers taken from the works, such as Patrick, who was named after the company's founder, but there were plenty of other types, like Kelly the crane. Eventually, as time went on, the fleet began to be modernized into the one you see today, thinks a bit shinny. Rest assured, though, that the older machines aren't scrapped. Most, if not all of them, were preserved. William the NWR S3 class asks, do any sentient tugboats live around the harbors of Sodor? Yes, several in fact. There's too many to name in one video, but there's a few notable ones stationed in Knapford. They're called the Star Tugs, and were brought over from America by their owner when he emigrated to the UK. They're all steam tugs, and thus mainly do excursions, but the younger ones can often be seen doing odd jobs all across the island's canals and coastlines. The local guy 45 asks, how many engines are in service on the NWR in present day, and are some older engines retired? As of present day, the NWR has a whopping 84 engines all across its network. That seems excessive, but once you get down to it, it's quite a reasonable number. You need to account for the fact that each branch line needs its own fleet, every big station needs at least one shunter, and not to mention the fact the main line is extremely understaffed in the books and TV series. There aren't really any retired engines in the NWR.
He should be retired.
The whole reason old engines go there is because they still want to work on a real railway, not a preserved line. I suppose you could say that Flora and Glyn are retired, and Old Victor, as they worked on the railway in the old days. But apart from them, the museums are mainly full of engines that have never worked in the NWR. Tank Engine Media asks, how many NWR-built engines are there, and will more be made in the future? Currently, there are 18 NWR-built engines on the network, those being the Rabbits, the Hares, the Lakes, the Badgers, Mammoths, Highlander, Martha, Malik, and Brook. More will definitely be built in the future, as in today's day and age, there's not many engines that need saving from scrap. If the NWR needs locos in the future, they will most likely be built in-house. Once again, sorry for the unannounced break, I just really got busy all of a sudden. You guys seem to like the series though, so I hope this video made up for it. Oh, and one more thing. Happy Thanksgiving to all my fellow Americans. EdwardsDayOut, signing off.